Welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to unpack a story that takes a beautifully serene wilderness setting and instantly flips it into the backdrop of a life or death mystery. I want you to imagine being miles away from civilization at a remote Boy Scout camp. You're surrounded by the quiet beauty of nature, when suddenly the unthinkable literally drops right out of the darkening sky. Today, we're following the trail of a desperate cry for help, an incredibly enigmatic young hero, and a terrifying race against time into the pitch-black woods. Let's dive right in. Just listen to these words. Come right away. Governor hurt. Serious. Can't leave. We'll try to get to nearest village, but I'm afraid to leave now. He fell and is bleeding bad. Think there's something else the matter too. Spotty died or would send. Jeff. Wow. This terrifying, cryptic note is the explosive catalyst for our whole story. It is a message with zero coordinates, no clear sender, and it carries the incredibly heavy weight of a life hanging in the balance. But before we find out how this note was actually delivered, we really need to set the stage. Part 1. The Lonely Winter Watch. Okay, to truly understand the shock of this mystery, we have to look through the observant eyes of young Raymond Hollister. For Raymond, the winter was one of deep, peaceful isolation. He's been quietly recovering from an illness with literally only the camp manager, old Jeb Rushmore, for company. It's been this almost Valley Forge-style existence buried in the snow where his biggest triumph was gaining enough weight to finally tip the scales at 91 pounds. But now spring has arrived. Tents are coming out of hibernation, the pantry smells of fresh flour and coffee, and Raymond is anxiously anticipating the camp just springing to life with the arrival of the Billerica Troop on their boat. He's just been sitting there, staring out at the inky surface of Lake Winnipesaukee, waiting for his friends. Moving on to part 2. Death from the sky. So it's during the darkening evening watch. The foothills are turning this gorgeous crimson in the fading twilight. But then that peacefulness is abruptly shattered. Raymond looks up into the dim, trackless sky and spots a small white bird flying straight as an arrow, clearly intent on a mission. And then, out of nowhere, a sudden swoop. A much larger bird, a massive hawk, waylays the smaller one in an absolute fury of murderous, beating wings. It is a jarring, terrifying moment of pure predator and prey violence happening right above their serene camp. Old Jeb Rushmore? He doesn't even hesitate. With a rapid, totally stoic command, he just says, "Get me my rifle." Raymond tremblingly hands it over, and a sharp report cracks across the echoing lake, shattering the stillness of the evening. Jeb, staying incredibly true to his legendary marksmanship, drops the predator instantly. Now, picture the surreal aftermath down on the ground. The dead hawk is lying in the grass, fluttering right nearby, and a pitiably futile effort to fly is this miraculously surviving but badly bloodstained and battered white carrier pigeon. But the absolute most important detail here isn't the bird itself, it's what's attached to it. There's a metal ring around its leg holding a tiny transparent tube, a capsule containing a hidden message. Which brings us to part 3, a cryptic cry for help. So Jeb leisurely, without even a trace of excitement, opens this tiny capsule in the flickering yellow light of his lantern, while young Raymond just watches in absolute awe, and the enigma unfolds. The note inside is rolled up super tightly, written on a thin piece of paper about the size of a dollar bill. He fell and is bleeding bad. Think about that. This isn't just a scraped knee, it's a catastrophic emergency playing out somewhere out there in the vast wilderness. A complete stranger is bleeding out, and the sender, Jeff, is far too terrified to leave his side. From Raymond's perspective, this is a moment of profound, paralyzing helplessness. He looks up at the darkening, empty night sky. I mean, nobody can follow trails in the air. The steadfast little emissary was struck down, and with it, the only physical connection to the dying man. Where on earth did it come from? Who is the governor? They literally have absolutely no idea. Let's look at part 4, the enigmatic Tom Slade. Just as despair is really setting in, the silence of the lake is broken by a chorus of scout calls. Emerging from the gloom is the Good Turn, a cramped launch boat packed to the brim with the chaotic, cheerful Billerica Troop. Help has finally arrived. But as Raymond is watching them, he observes one figure standing in stark contrast to the rest of the boys. While the troop spills out in their crisp, brand-new, resplendent uniforms, loud and just full of energy, there stands Tom Slade. Tom is a total enigma. He's quiet, stolid, and his face is as unreadable as stone. He's wearing this ragged gray flannel shirt and a thin strap doing duty as a belt. He ignores all the standard uniform rules, pretty much acting as a complete law unto himself. Yet, as the other boys say, he's the fellow for mysteries.
All right, part 5, the deduction.
The blood-stained note is handed over to the troop's scoutmaster, and it very quickly passes to Tom Slade. And Tom immediately takes over the investigation with this cool, Sherlock-esque precision that we could all honestly learn a thing or two from when facing high-pressure situations. First, he feels the rough edge and identifies the torn paper. He realizes it's not random scrap, it's actually a blank tracking sheet from a specific sporting goods company in Boston. Second, he reasons that whoever is out tracking and using carrier pigeons for sport would naturally seek out high ground for a vantage point, right? And finally, his memory clicks. He recalls that just last summer there were tracking chalk marks left on the trees up on the densely wooded Millstone Hill. So in 3 rapid, brilliant steps, Tom bridges a cryptic, impossible mystery to an actionable, real-world location. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is Tom's blunt, unyielding determination. He doesn't ask for permission, he doesn't try to form a committee, he simply nudges the dead hawk with his boot, looking irritated that it caused such a delay, and announces his departure. I'm not going to sit down here and eat supper with someone dying out there. He completely solidifies his role right there as the ultimate problem solver. And finally, part 6, into the dark woods. Even though the scoutmaster clearly has doubts about finding anyone in this vast wilderness at night, a frantic but highly organized assembly takes place as a small rescue team prepares to head out. Breaking down their gear really shows you just how serious this is. Tom takes the lead, carrying the one and only lantern. Doc Carson slims a folding stretcher across his back. Connor Bennett brings the bandages and medical kit, and Gary Everson joins for his expertise in signaling. But most importantly, every single one of them is armed with a belt axe. They aren't walking down a nicely paved trail. They literally have to physically hack their way through the dense, trackless thickets of Millstone Hill in the pitch-black night. Which leaves us watching these 4 brave boys march out of the lantern light and into the dark, imposing woods. It's a true testament to the power of deduction and having the courage to act when every single second counts. The white pigeon brought the message, but it is entirely up to Tom Slade to finish the delivery. With night falling, a stranger bleeding out somewhere in the unknown, and only a torn tracking sheet as a clue, we're left to ask, will Tom Slade's brilliant deductions lead this brave team to a miraculous rescue? Or are they walking blindly into a devastating tragedy? I'll leave you with that provocative thought to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.